false widow. The false widow is Britain's most talked about spider and also its most misrepresented one. Steota nobilis is a real spider with a real bite that causes real pain. But the gap between what UK tabloids have printed about it and what the science actually says is staggering. In reality, false. Widow bites typically cause localized pain, swelling, and occasionally nausea. But serious medical complications are rare. The spider gets its name from its resemblance to the black widow with a shiny dark brown body and pale cream markings on the abdomen that can look, if you squint, like a skull. One documented case involved British soccer player James Gray, who was hospitalized in 2016 after a bite attributed to a false widow required surgery to remove infected tissue. A real event, but also a genuine outlier from the typical outcome. False widows originated in the Canary Islands and Madeira and have spread across the UK and parts of North America through global trade. Their body reaches about 14 millimeters, and they favor dark corners of garages, garden sheds, and window frames. They will bite if pressed against skin, but they are not hunting humans. The concern about them is real. The hysteria surrounding them is not. Yellow sac spider. The yellow sac spider holds a distinction that sounds alarming until you understand what it means. It is responsible for more human bites than any other spider species in the world. This is partly because it is found on every continent except Antarctica, is excellent at hiding in clothing, shoes, and bedding, and has a habit of wandering indoors at night. Its cytotoxic venom destroys cells at the bite site, causing local redness, swelling, and occasionally blistering. Uncomfortable, but rarely medically serious. Reports of necrosis similar to the brown recluse are scientifically disputed, with most experts concluding the spider's bite is considerably less damaging than older literature suggested. The most unusual chapter in the yellow sac spider story involves not human bites, but cars. In 2014, Mazda issued a recall of approximately 65,000 vehicles after discovering that yellow sac spiders were weaving webs inside fuel system components, attracted to the smell of gasoline, a behavior specific to this species that had also triggered a previous recall in 2011. It is a tiny spider, pale yellow or cream, rarely exceeding 1 centimeter in body length and almost completely invisible against a white ceiling or light-colored wall. The most frequently biting spider on Earth is one that most people have never noticed: mouse spider. The mouse spider looks like it should be more dangerous than it is, and in terms of pure venom potency, it arguably is, but its temperament works in our favor. There are 12 species of mouse spider in the genus Miscelina, found across Australia, ranging from about 1 to 3.5 centimeters in body length, with females being uniformly black and males sporting a distinctive bright red head and petty palps against a black body. Their venom has been analyzed and found to be comparable in potency to the Sydney funnel web spider, a fact that understandably concerns researchers. And funnel web antivenom has been confirmed to work on mouse spider bites. In emergency situations, the saving grace is the mouse spider's tendency toward dry bites. A high proportion of their defensive bites inject no venom at all, a behavioral trait common in animals whose venom is too precious to waste on threats rather than prey. They are ground-dwelling hunters, not web builders, and they spend most of their time in burrows in the soil. They move slowly and deliberately, appear soft and almost furry compared to the glossy funnel web, and generally do not adopt an aggressive posture unless directly handled. The danger is entirely there. The mouse spider fortunately doesn't seem to know it. Brown recluse. The brown recluse is one of the most overreported spiders in medical literature and one of the most genuinely unpleasant to actually be bitten by. Found across 15 U.S. states predominantly in the South and Midwest. Loxosceles reclusa is a small spider 6 to 20 millimeters, identifiable by the violin-shaped marking on its cephalothorax and, crucially, by having only 6 eyes, arranged in 3 pairs rather than the 8 eyes found on most spiders. Its venom is necrotic. It contains phospholipase D, which triggers a spreading immune response that can cause a lesion of dead tissue at the bite site, sometimes growing to several centimeters in diameter and taking weeks or months to heal. However, studies suggest that necrosis is far less common than reported. Many diagnosed Brown recluse bites are actually other skin conditions, bacterial infections, or bites from other species entirely. The spider lives up to its name. It hides in undisturbed areas, cardboard boxes, folded clothing, attics, cluttered basement, and bites almost always occur when a person accidentally presses the spider against skin. It is not aggressive and does not seek out humans. It simply lives in the same space as we do, invisible and waiting to be noticed in the worst possible way. Redback spider. The redback spider is Australia's most frequently envenomating animal, responsible for an estimated 10,000 bites per year, more than any snake, scorpion, or other spider on the continent. Latrodactylus celti is closely related to the black widow and carries the same neurotoxic weapon, rotoxin, which overwhelms nerve endings and causes intense spreading pain, sweating, nausea, elevated blood pressure, and in severe cases respiratory distress. The female redback, recognizable by the vivid orange red stripe on her back, reaches about 10 millimeters in body length. The male is tiny and rarely noticed. The species likes dark, sheltered spaces, garden furniture, outdoor shoes, letterboxes, and under toilet seats in outdoor bathrooms, historically causing a number of uncomfortably memorable bites. No deaths have been recorded since the antivenom was developed in 1956, making redback envenomation one of the most treatable, serious spider bites in the world. The venom left untreated causes a syndrome called latrodactylism, generalized pain, muscle cramps, and restlessness that can persist for days. It is a small, quiet spider that kills, very slowly and rarely, but it does so while sitting in your garden chair, which is why Australians tend to check before they sit. Black widow. The black widow is the most recognizable venomous spider in the world, and its reputation, for once, is mostly earned. The female, Reductus mactans, jet black with the unmistakable red hourglass shape on the underside of her abdomen, produces a venom that is drop for drop, approximately 15 times more potent than a rattlesnake's. That said, black widows inject a very small amount per bite, and the actual medical outcome for a healthy adult is rarely fatal. In the modern United States, deaths from black widow bites are almost non-existent, though the spider generates more than 2,500 calls to poison control centers every year. Symptoms of a serious bite include severe muscle cramping, abdominal rigidity, fever, nausea, and difficulty breathing, a syndrome called reductism. The female lives up to 3 years and is substantially larger and more venomous than the male, who typically survives only a few months and is in some circumstances eaten by the female after mating, a behavior that has been documented, though it is not as universal as popular culture suggests. Black widows build irregular, messy webs in dark corners of garages, sheds, wood piles, and basement. They are not aggressive and bite only when threatened or accidentally press against skin. For an animal this famous, that is a surprisingly narrow window of danger. Chilean recluse. The Chilean recluse is What happens when the brown recluses? Necrotic venom is amplified and the resulting bite goes systemic. Loxals. Leah is found predominantly in Chile, Peru, and Argentina where it hides. Inside wall cavities, behind furniture, and in boxes, household spaces where human contact is virtually guaranteed. Over time, like the brown recluse, its venom contains the phospholipase enzyme. That causes necrotic skin lesions. But the Chilean species carries a more concentrated version capable of triggering a rarer and far more severe outcome in approximately 15% of confirmed Chilean recluse bite cases. Victims develop systemic visceral lockism, a whole-body reaction in which venom enters the bloodstream, causes red blood cells to rupture, hemolysis, triggers kidney failure, and in 3 to 4% of those severe systemic cases results in death. It is larger than the brown recluse, similarly patterned with the violin, marking and similarly reclusive. The majority of its bites remain localized and cause a familiar necrotic wound, but the fraction that don't are a genuinely serious medical emergency for which antivenom access in remote parts of South America is inconsistent. It is a recluse spider taken to its logical most dangerous conclusion. Six-eyed sand spider. The six-eyed sand spider may be the most potently venomous spider in the world per unit of toxin, and almost no one has ever been seriously harmed by it because it lives in some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. Sicarius honey is found in the deserts of southern Africa, where it buries itself in sand with only its eyes exposed, perfectly camouflaged against the ground, waiting motionlessly for insects or small animals to wander within striking range. Its venom is a dual-action cytotoxin that is both hemolytic, rupturing blood vessels and causing them to leak, and necrotic, destroying tissue rapidly. In laboratory studies, rabbits bitten by six-eyed sand spiders died within approximately 5 hours. The venom has been described as capable of causing skin, flesh, and blood vessel destruction on a scale that surpasses a recluse spider's. Confirmed, human bites are extraordinarily rare, simply because the spider's desert habitat rarely intersects with human activity and the spider shows no aggression toward humans. There is no antivenom for its bite. If one were to bite a person in a remote area, medical treatment would be limited to managing symptoms as they progress. Its danger is almost purely theoretical. Almost. Brazilian wandering spider. The Brazilian wandering spider holds the Guinness World Record as the most venomous spider on Earth, and it carries its title with an aggressive energy that distinguishes it from almost every other spider on this list. Phenutria, nigriventer, and Phenutria roam the jungle floors of South America at night, hunting rather than web-sighting, and when threatened, they adopt a distinctive posture, front legs raised straight up, body elevated, fangs exposed, a stance that communicates very clearly that the spider is not retreating. Their body reaches up to 48 millimeters, and they're neurotoxic. Venom works by causing massive disruption to the nervous system, loss of muscle control, respiratory difficulty that can lead to paralysis, and in males, a sustained and extremely painful erection, priapism caused by the venom's interference with nitric oxide signaling. This last side effect is not merely an unusual footnote. Pharmaceutical researchers are actively investigating the Phenutria venom compounds as a potential treatment for erectile dysfunction. The spiders are sometimes called banana spiders because they hide in banana leaf clusters and have been found in banana shipments arriving at grocery stores in Europe and North America. Hundreds of bites are reported annually in Brazil. Antivenom exists and prevents most deaths, but without it, the venom of the spider can kill and its aggression means it is more likely than most to deliver full dose. Sydney funnel web spider. The Sydney funnel web spider is, by the assessment of most toxicologists and emergency physicians, the most medically dangerous spider in the world when it comes to encounters with humans. And the distinction matters because most spider venoms barely affect us. Atrax robustus is found within a roughly 100 kilometers radius of Sydney, Australia, typically in moist environments under logs in gardens and in homes near bushland. What makes it uniquely lethal is a compound in its venom called delta-trichotoxin, which acts specifically on primate nervous systems. Humans are far more sensitive to it than most other mammals, meaning the dose that would barely affect a dog or a rabbit can kill a person in as little as 15 minutes. Males have considerably more potent venom than females and are more likely to wander into homes during mating season. Before an antivenom was developed in 1981, funnel web spiders were responsible for 13 confirmed human deaths in Australia. Since 1981, despite thousands of bites, there have been 0. The spider itself is glossy black, with large vertical fangs that can pierce fingernails, and unlike virtually every other spider, it does not retreat when confronted. It rears up on its hind legs and strikes forward. It is the only spider on Earth that has been credibly described as actively dangerous to encounter at close range rather than merely capable of delivering a bad bite if provoked. If you want to see more, click the video on screen.